Okay, so today we are talking, I'm just trying to make sure I can't get to the thing here. It didn't open up. So I wonder if we're actually live on Facebook or if we've just been only talking to you fine people on Instagram.
No, I think I can see it. Hang on, let me
Oh,
go
good.
back. I can see it. We are
We're
live.
okay, good. So all week we have been talking about offers. We have been talking about how to move online. We have been talking about um, how to quickly put something together that gives you the opportunity to either start online, oh, thank you, or transition online. And so we are going to continue with that same vein today. We're talking about onboarding. And the reason that we decided to talk about onboarding is because it's the client now. This person is a client. It's their first experience with you, and we have a lot of experience not only from our own clients but onboarding with our clients that we want to share with you. Oh, good. Okay, so now I can see the comments on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. All right, cool. So do you want to explain what onboarding is?
Yeah, absolutely. Onboarding, it's funny. Onboarding is the process that everybody forgets about when they start talking about moving online and signing a client, and they get to the point of like designing their program and they're excited, and then they get through the sales process and they get a client, and then it's like, oh, what do I do next? So onboarding is the process basically that's going to start when you collect payment from your client, and it's going to ensure that that client has a smooth transition into working with you, because you have to remember this client took a leap of faith, right? They have this problem, they haven't been able to solve it, they probably don't really believe in themselves that they're going to actually be able to fix it, but all of the work that you did getting to them to this point got them to the point where they're willing to say, okay, I trust you, you have a methodology that I believe works, I see it, I'm going to take this leap and I'm going to work with you. And so your responsibility then is to onboard them into your program in such a way that they feel taken care of. They feel like you have got their back. They feel like they cannot fail because they are set up to succeed from the beginning. Does that explain it?
Yes, I think that it does. And I just want to go back and remind you that they're not, first of all, probably haven't had any experience working with online platforms in the way that you have. So even if you're a licensed practitioner and you're using Practice Better, you're using Jane, you want to put yourself in their shoes, because what you don't want is for them to get flustered and frustrated right after deciding to work with you. That's not the experience that you want them to have. So, given the situation that we're in, you're likely still learning these platforms. They're likely learning these platforms. And so, I would think through all of the steps that you know the client needs to take. A lot of our licensed practitioners have to send and receive contracts. They have to send intake forms. They have to send assessment forms. And they have to do it in a HIPAA or PIPEDA compliant way. And so when you're thinking through onboarding with your new patient or your new client, I'm thinking even like we have people who do personal training online, and their specific designation in their insurance requires them to send a PAR-Q, right? A PAR-Q form. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, how do you do that? You actually outline for your new patient or client every single step, and you walk them through exactly what to do in the order that you want them to do it. And you want to let them know that you're going to be giving them a lot of instruction and you need to set them up for success. And so even if you have to send multiple emails, I would say this is email one of three. right? And you want to think through it in a very logical way for them, because you don't want to overwhelm them with, okay, click here, now click here, now click here, now click here, go over here, join the Facebook group. Here's the thing. So we actually break our onboarding up into two parts, right? The first part is all of the forms that they need to sign. When they send those back, they get the second part. So we don't overwhelm our clients with 50 million things to click on all at once. We actually break it up. Do you want to talk about language and like,
Yes.
think about it like you're explaining how to make a peanut butter and jelly
Yes.
sandwich to a 4-year-old?
Yes. So what you have to remember is that when you are onboarding people, this is going to be a process that you repeat over and over and over and over again. So eventually, maybe not the first time, eventually this is going to be automated, and every single person is going to be going through your onboarding process, which means you have to speak to, and I'll say this, it doesn't, I feel like this doesn't sound great to say, but you have to speak to the lowest common denominator, meaning you have to assume that everybody going through your onboarding process is starting from like the absolute bottom level of understanding, right? So they have never used the platforms before. They have never worked with somebody online before. They have never accessed any of the things you're asking them to access before, even like a Facebook group, if you're using a Facebook group in your program. So you really have to dial back the tech talk, which is how we refer to it. And that is both referring to like technology and also referring to, maybe some industry speak that that your ideal client doesn't know. Like, for example, if you deal with gut health and you automatically start talking about leaky gut, they might not know what leaky gut is, right? So you can't assume that your clients know any of the terms that you would know in your onboarding process and intro to your program. So that means laying things out the way that you would talk to somebody in, kindergarten, in grade 1, and using language that a 7-year-old would understand. And I mean that literally, and not because our clients have the mentality of a 7-year-old, but because they're all coming from different places. And this is all new to them, likely. So you need to make sure that you're not overwhelming or confusing them with the way that you speak right off the hop. And so that comes from the very first email. It's always going to be warm and welcoming, and I'm so excited to work with you, and I've got you, and this is exactly what you're going to do first, and this is step 1, and I want you to click here. And if you have, an intake form, for example, you can't assume that they know how to open up an intake form, fill it in, save it, and send it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't assume that they know how to do that. Most people who don't work, online don't know how to do that. So you have to choose the path of least resistance for them, which means making things as simple and non-convoluted as you possibly can, right? There's this propensity to go out and choose all of these like super complicated onboarding systems because it sounds fancy and you feel cool doing it, and you invest in this software that lets them make these beautiful fillable PDFs, and you send it to the client, and they are so confused and have no idea how to actually access it, type in information, and send it back to you.
And then when it doesn't save.
Yes. And they lose everything because they don't know how. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. So think that through at every single step of the way. What is the least complicated? What is the easiest for my client to access? And how can I explain it in a step-by-step way that somebody who is 7 years old could understand and follow?
Yeah. And if that means sending a Word document or a PDF that you tell them, print this out, fill this out, snap a photo of it with your phone, and either text it to me or email it to me, or if you're using Practice Better or you're using Jane or something like that, film a video and walk them through how to do what you want. This is the first interaction that they've had with you as a practitioner. And if you overwhelm them with too many things to do, especially right now,
Yeah.
we know this as practitioners ourselves, that when people are under duress, when people are stressed out, when they're having anxiety, so logical, rational thinking goes out the window. And so something that they might have been able to do before feels so much harder for them now. So especially for those of you that are needing to use or protect well, we all need to protect confidential information, but using a HIPAA or PROPITA platform, I would film videos, and you can use, your computer, well, if you're on a Mac, it comes with QuickTime. You can do a screen share. You can get a free account of Zoom, and you can use Zoom as a free account to literally create screen videos where you're walking them through, the email that they're going to get, that they can watch a video, the email that they're going to get, click on the link, how to create an account, where to go inside the account. That's step one. Make your onboarding process as simple as possible for them, because all they want is relief. They don't want to have to be, watching 50 million videos and filling out 10 different forms and answering a whole entire questionnaire, filling out a food and mood journal. Like, why? You're just going to change it anyway, right?
That's a really good point. So don't have them do things that aren't necessary to them achieving results. I feel like that's something that a lot of people, and I know I made this mistake when I was working in weight loss, like I would ask people the most ridiculous questions on this intake form that was like 4 pages long, and none of it actually really mattered. I looked at 4 answers every time.
Yeah. So if you don't, even though you might have been taught to do something one way, think about if you're actually going to use the information immediately to get them a result. And if you're not, don't ask it, right? I remember, why I stopped doing, food journals. I use them in my sales consults because they were helpful to demonstrate the gaping holes. But after that, I didn't have them fill out a food and mood journal at the outset, because I was just going to change their food choices anyway. So what did I care? Right.
Yep.
So, and the same thing sort of with that lengthy questionnaire. It was like, at that point, they were already a client, I didn't really need to know what they had done in the past. I'm not talking about a health history. Although if you're not going to utilize the information, and if your information that you're giving them is so foundational, just be very mindful of not doing things just because you were told to do them. Right? And thinking through the experience that you want your person to have. If you're, especially at this time, maybe sending them like a little video of your face that you use with your phone to say, "Hey, Jane, I'm so happy that you're here. I know we just spoke yesterday, but I was thinking about you, and I just, I want to make sure that you're okay. I want to make sure that you've, accessed the platform. Let me know if you have any questions." You can send that to them via text. You can send that to them via private message. Think about your clients in that way, because making this first experience with you as simple and stress-free as possible is going to set the tone for how they think about you, and how open they are with you, and how committed they are to doing the work with you, which is really, really important. The other thing that I want to talk about is not running a manual business. So this is actually more important for those of you that are working offline, because we know, because we work with you, that you all do many, many things manually, that don't need to be done manually. Meaning that if you have steps in your process that you are repetitively doing, that should be automated. You're wasting a lot of man-woman hours doing repetitive tasks like sending check-in emails, like automating the
Yes.
forms, like invoicing and receipts and whatever, what, sending documents and sending videos and sending meal plans, and all of the things that you're doing as a one-off should be part of your delivery process. So we've sold the person on a solution which is inclusive of them not feeling stressed out by you.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
Right?
You're supposed to be solving their problem, not creating new problems.
Right. And that's one of the things that we see is sending lots of emails, disorganization. So in terms of, so Sam's asking how to automate. The first thing that we would suggest is actually writing down and creating a map. Like
Yes.
anytime we create a new offer, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like, a higher end offer or a one-on-one offer. I remember when I was working one-on-one and doing nutrition consults and even business coaching, I had a document where I listed out, which we have now, we have our operating procedures, right? Where you list out, okay, transaction approved, next step. What's the email that goes there? What needs to be included in the email? What happens if they don't reply to the email? And you literally think through every single step and you break it apart and say, okay, can I automate? And you might, and there is, with email marketing, there are campaigns that you can use, there's automations that you can use, there's triggers that you can use. We happen to set all of those up for our clients, but it's something that you can learn.
Absolutely.
And that way, the majority of what you need to do is taken care of so that you can actually have time to make those little cute videos for your new clients and welcome them into your Facebook group and do all of that stuff. Do you want to just talk maybe a little bit about what to look for when we're talking about automation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I feel like with everything we're talking about today, you want something that's fairly simple. You don't want to overcomplicate it. And you want to maximize the time that you have in your business to actually interact with clients. And then to also continue working on your business, right? So, the idea with automation is that it's taking you out of the tasks that you don't have to be doing, that don't, grow your business or actively help your clients in the moment. So, the way that I would look at this, if you're just getting started and you don't really know what this looks like Lori said, map it out. So first off, map it out. So you're going to literally map out the process, right? That's step one. Step two, once you have that process mapped out, now you're going to take it one step further to actually creating the pieces that go in the process, right? So maybe it's the series of emails that your client gets as soon as they onboard with you. And then it's, filming the videos that go with it that everybody's going to see. So you're creating the process one time, right? One time for, say, your very first client. You're creating this even as you go. If you're, doing this right now and you're working hard to get online and figure this out, you're going to sell somebody, you're going to onboard them, and then you're going to use that process in the future. And then after that, you're looking for the platforms. So for email marketing, we use ActiveCampaign. We love ActiveCampaign. You're looking for a platform that you can then insert. So you're just taking these emails that you've written, you're inserting them into this platform, and you're basically creating a workflow that when you push a button, so you literally just do one thing that sets it off. That workflow then happens without you being part of it. It's happening in the background without you actively then having to come in and spend time, effort, energy, going in and doing that manually for each client. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, it's the workflow. And
The
so,
workflow.
even if you are doing this manually, then you at least have a workflow. Krista on Facebook's asking, do you have a form or something to help us see what it will look like for automating an offer? So I just want to be clear about this, because what we're talking about is onboarding after the person becomes a client. You can only automate the offer so much so that you get them to the place where you can have a sales conversation with them. So the offer in and of itself is the actual sales conversation, which you can't really automate. Whether that's, a webinar to a sales call or just a sales call in general, that's not something you can automate. But what happens is so whatever mechanism by which you complete the transaction, that is connected to your delivery system. So if you're using PayPal or if you're using Stripe with some type of checkout, so if you're using Practice Better, it's likely connected to Stripe or PayPal. If you're using Jane, it's connected to something. If you're using ClickFunnels, it's connected to something, right? And when that person completes the transaction, whether because you're doing it with them manually on the phone or because you've given them a link to the checkout page, after that transaction is complete, there should be a workflow in place that gets triggered by the completion of the transaction that then sets off this motion where they get a welcome email, where they get next steps, where they get check-ins, where they get all of these pieces that carry them through the program with you. That's what we mean by automating, right? So that even if you're working one-on-one with clients, you still absolutely can have a workflow set up either in Jane or Practice Better or Active Campaign where you add that person to the workflow and you're not having to remember to send them their learning lesson for that day or their weekly blank template of whatever it is you want to give them, right? There's ways to automate even when you work one-on-one with clients, but it's sitting down and thinking through. Now, this might take some time to get it right. What we originally, the original intent of was today is to help you not overwhelm your new clients who are not used to being online, right? So for those of you that are using Zoom for the first time, right, with your clients, maybe your personal trainers or, you're doing telehealth for the first time, using Zoom for people is tricky, right?
Yes.
So giving them some tips on how to use Zoom, right? It's like, it's hard because you can't do a practice run because that's how they have to use Zoom, but maybe you do. Maybe you want to run a practice run, you want to give them best practices in the sense of how do they test their microphone? What happens if they don't want to be on video? You want to think through all of the different elements, especially for those people who are using this technology for the first time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really it. And just think about, it can be as simple as, when you have one-on-one clients, you having all of the emails, checking in on them already written, you having all of the content emails already written, and that just not being part of your weekly task. That just happens in the background. That at the base of this is what we're talking about, right? It's you not having to take the time every week, every day to go in, write an email or copy paste an email, send it to your client, do the next one, send it to your client. It's having it done for you. That's really what this is.
Yeah. Yep. So if you guys have questions about that, because I know that that's a little tricky in terms of onboarding, feel free on Instagram to send me a DM or on Facebook, you can send me a message. But given the stressful times that we're in, I would love for you to just take a hot minute and think through how to make this experience, especially for those people who are using these technologies for the first time, as simple as possible and not bombard them and overwhelm them with many steps in one shot. Break it down for them. So we hope that that's helpful. Tomorrow, we're going to do a wrap up. We're going to do a review. And then next week, we're going to move into attention. So we've done the offer side, and we're going to do a review, and we're going to leave you with a little bit of homework to do over the weekend tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to move into the attention side, because now you should have an idea of a service, a program, a one-on-one offer, detox, a something that we want you to get out into the world. So we will see you again tomorrow, 8:30-ish. Bye, everybody. Ish. Bye, everybody.
Bye.